Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in. This is Steve with the Hurricane Tracker app. We're going to do a Periscope video update here on Hurricane Irma. We're going to take about 30 seconds to let a few more folks join in here. So thank you all very much for tuning in. Hope everybody had a great Labor Day and a wonderful Tuesday. All right, so let's take a look at the latest satellite image here for Hurricane Irma. Let's see if I can't get this in motion. So you can see Irma is about as classic as a hurricane as you can get in the Atlantic Basin. Irma is the strongest hurricane on record in terms of wind speed since Hurricane Allen in 1980. The winds right now are 185 miles per hour. That does make Irma a Category 5 hurricane. And Hurricane Allen back in 1980 reached winds of 190. So any further strengthening and Irma could become the strongest storm on record and beating Allen. But short term here, main concern, these islands here in the Lesser Antilles, tropical storm conditions are starting to move into the region and will be followed by hurricane conditions tonight and through the morning tomorrow. And I'm going to flip over to my Apple Maps here. So you can see we have Antigua, Barbuda, maybe kind of hard to see, St. Martin, Anguilla. These islands are going to be near the core, unfortunately, of Hurricane Irma tonight. And of course, hurricane warnings are in effect. And we send our prayers to everybody here along the path of Hurricane Irma over the next couple of days. Along with Irma, we have two other systems we are tracking in the Atlantic. It has been a very busy day. We had a Jose form out here in the central Atlantic. I'll pull up the tracking map real quick for Jose. Jose is expected to become the next hurricane, but is also expected to remain north and east of the Caribbean for now. We'll definitely keep an eye on that for you and let you know if that changes. And we have Tropical Depression 13, which formed in the southwestern Gulf of Mexico. This will not be coming to the United States. It should develop into Tropical Storm Keisha during the next 24 hours and move into the state of Veracruz there in Mexico. Let's take a look at some of the highlights from the latest public advisory from the National Hurricane Center. The center is located 80 miles, I apologize, I'm looking at Tropical Depression 13. Let me get back to Irma here. Ever since Harvey, folks, we've had a long couple of weeks and been sleeping probably 2 to 3 hours each night, so bear with us here. All right, so Irma is located 130 miles east of Antigua, 185 mile per hour winds, moving west at 15, pressure down to 926. There is a whole range of watches and warnings in effect. We recommend checking out the public advisory from the National Hurricane Center for all the latest, but I'll go through some of the highlights. We have a hurricane warning in effect for Antigua, Barbuda, Montserrat, St. Martin, British Virgin Islands, U.S. Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, the northern coast of the Dominican Republic. We also have hurricane watches in effect for Guadeloupe, the northern coast of Haiti, Turks and Caicos, southeastern Bahamas. And we'll go ahead and pull up a graphical view of that now here. So you can see the red shaded areas, we have hurricane warnings along the path of Irma. The dark blue areas represent tropical storm warnings, and then the pink areas here in the Bahamas are hurricane watches, and then tropical storm watch for a portion of the Haiti coast. And so yeah, unfortunately, many land masses, islands, many folks will experience Hurricane Irma here over the next few days. It may not be a direct impact in some cases, as the center here is expected to slide just north of Puerto Rico. So for Puerto Rico, the U.S. British Virgin Islands, you may not receive the 150 to 180 mile per hour winds, but you will definitely receive sustained hurricane force winds well over 75 miles per hour. So we hope everyone on the islands there is prepared. As we get into Wednesday night and Thursday, Irma is going to be skirting the northern coast of Hispaniola. Same situation, we could see hurricane force winds across the northern portions of Dominican Republic. And these hurricane watches around 4 to 5 days from now will likely be upgraded to hurricane warnings at some point here over the next day or two. And Irma is expected to move generally towards Cuba, the rest of the Bahamas, and the Florida Keys, as well as South Florida. So you can see South Florida and Florida Keys are within the 5-day cone of uncertainty. And we'll talk more about potential U.S. impacts here in just a moment. Somebody mentioned the latest GFS run. Let's take a look at it here. So we're looking at the pressure heights, several thousand feet up in the atmosphere. This is kind of what is steering Irma. The dark red areas are areas of high pressure. Think of that as pushing the storm to the west. Areas of blue, that's a trough of low pressure. And I'm going to put this into motion here in just a second. See, Irma's going to skirt. I think the GFS has this a little too far north. I think it's going to be closer to Hispaniola. So that may be one reason why the GFS is turning the system east of Florida. See that? And another reason, it is weakening the area of high pressure. So look at this frame here. You see the area of orange around the 591 number just to the east of Florida. Now watch what the run showed just 6 hours ago. Stronger ridge, stronger ridge, stronger ridge. And now it's showing less of a ridge. And by Saturday morning, there's literally no ridge left. So the 18Z GFS is trying to move the system east of Florida, which is what we want. That's great news. We hope this becomes a trend. We would love nothing more to see than this to turn east of Florida. Of course, that would be bad for our friends in the Bahamas and Nassau, Andros Island, places in there. But so the models still haven't quite resolved exactly where this is going to go. Now, when you're looking at a potential landfalling storm for 4 to 5 days out, it's not best to focus on one model run. It's best to focus on what's called the model's ensemble members. So this is a European, and it's 51 ensembles. And what you want to try to do is see if all these lines, different models of the European suite, are they lining up? Are they agreeing? So you can see here, through the first 2-3 days, they all agree. They're in great agreement. It's going to skirt just north of the islands, as we just showed you in the Hurricane Center forecast. But by the time we get out here to days 4 and 5, look at the spread. We have models all the way out into the north central Gulf Coast. We have models going into the Carolinas and Georgia. And we have some skirting New England. We have some going out into the open Atlantic. Unfortunately, at this point, this is such a big spread, we can't say exactly which one of these lines the storm's going to take. It's impossible. So what you want to try to do is look at the mean, look at the average. And if you look at the average of all these tracks, and that's where the Hurricane Center is going to put their forecast 99% of the time, it's along the northern coast of Cuba and into South Florida. So we have high concern that, in some form or fashion, Florida is going to see some type of impacts, whether it's a brush to the east or west, whether it's a direct impact, on the southern tip of Florida and comes straight up the spine of Florida, affecting the whole peninsula. That's still a possibility. We just don't know. So it's just best that everybody in the area prepare, plan, put evacuation plan in place, and know what you would do if hurricane warnings are issued. So obviously tonight, our 5-day impact alert levels, we have imminent effects happening now and tonight through tomorrow for Puerto Rico and then Lesser Antilles. We have high alert levels for the northern coast of Haiti, Dominican Republic, Cuba, Turks and Caicos, southeastern Bahamas. And we do have elevated levels now for the west coast of Cuba, South Florida and the Florida Keys, as well as the northern Bahamas. And this basically means that, let me pull up elevated risk for those of you in South Florida. You had an increased risk of being impacted by an active or developing cyclone. Build or restock your basic disaster supplies kit. Food, water, flashlight, batteries, chargers. Get cash out of the ATM. Fill your car up with gas. Familiarize yourself with local emergency plans. And know how to execute your plans and your evacuation plans if voluntary or mandatory evacuations are given for your area. So definitely an increased level of alert. And we won't know for probably 2 or 3 more days as to exactly where this storm may travel. And let me pull up the Hurricane Tracker app. There's a few more things I want to show you guys here. So you can see we have 3 storms. We have a hurricane, a tropical storm, and a depression. That's pretty rare in the Atlantic. We don't see that very often. I'm going to go to Irma's storm section here. Now, this product is exclusive to the Hurricane Tracker app users. This is something that we issue. We're going to be updating it tonight. It basically shows the cone, long range we think it's going to travel, and what the percent chance of being impacted. Not a landfall, but being impacted by at least tropical storm force winds. So you can see really high chances, imminent chances here in the Eastern Caribbean, and then 60 to 70% chances right now being affected in southern Florida, Cuba, and the Bahamas. 50-50 chances now being impacted over the Florida Peninsula, and then a low chance, 10% or less generally right now for the Florida Panhandle west to New Orleans. And still moderate risk, 35-45% here along the Carolinas. Those of you in the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast, we've been able to lower this a little bit, below 10%, as models have been trending away from going up the East Coast. Of course, the GFS is trending back east, so we're going to watch the models and see if they start trending back east. But right now, pretty low threat levels there for New England. Obviously, here's the risk potential. The red shaded areas are high risk. Orange areas are medium risk. I want to focus in on the United States coast. So right now, those of you, I'd say, destined westward, western Florida Panhandle, all the way to southeastern Louisiana, very low chance. What that means is it's not zero. Okay, if it was zero, we would have nothing here like we do over Texas. Okay, so it's very low. The green area here around the Florida Big Bend is low. Then, of course, you have a medium risk for the entire Florida Peninsula, Florida Keys, all the way up in through maybe about Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And then again, we have a low risk for North Carolina, the Outer Banks, and then a very low risk for the Mid-Atlantic and area here. Start putting a plan in place. Evacuate if you feel that that would be best based on where you live. Get your hurricane disaster supply kit ready. Buy supplies now. We're already hearing that some stores are selling out of water, bread, non-perishables. We don't want you to wait till the last minute when hurricane warnings are posted. And if you plan and prepare and the storm doesn't come, don't feel bummed out. You're ready for the next one, okay? Hopefully there won't be a next one, but you're ready. It's okay I think it's good to spend a little bit of money to make sure you're prepared, because there's chances of major structural damage in Florida if the current forecasts are true. And of course, some areas could be without power for weeks, okay? Right now, let me give you some context. Right now, Irma is stronger than Andrew was. And this is a very serious storm, serious situation. We want you guys to take it as such. And there's just no discounting the power here of Hurricane Irma. You can see Hurricane Center keeps it as a Category 5 through Thursday. And then the purple color here is Category 4. And it's still a possibility it could remain a Category 5. Irma is over very warm waters, very favorable environment. There's no wind shear, no dry air. And unfortunately, if it does impact the United States and the Bahamas, it's going to be as a very strong storm. So right now you can see we have tropical storm force winds moving into the northern Lesser Antilles, and then you have the red area of hurricane force winds, which will be moving through the area overnight towards Puerto Rico and the islands. And you can see long-term, Hurricane Center has tropical storm force winds over the southern Florida Peninsula. By the time we get into Sunday, hurricane force winds over Key West. Then again, from this point, will it go west into the Gulf? Will it turn north up into Florida? Will it turn east a little bit before Florida? We just can't figure that out right now. It's impossible to know. I wouldn't cancel any trips to North Carolina right now. I would give it another day or two to see what's going to happen before making any final plans on, for any trips that may be scheduled. Here's the latest look at the 18Z Tropical Model Suite. So you can see it's kind of going up the eastern coast of Florida. Now, another thing, too, I don't know if you know, but here at the Hurricane Tracker app, we're based in Atlanta, Georgia. When this storm comes inland, it's not going to quickly die and immediately fade, just like we saw with Harvey. It's going to be weakening. In inland areas, there could be some flooding threats here, even some wind threats for portions of Georgia, South Carolina, or maybe even North Carolina, the western part anyway. So think about that, too. If you're inland, you may also want to get prepared for some power outages in case tropical storm force winds move inland into the southeast. And again, some models, HWRF, the UK Met, which is the blue line here, still trending towards the west. So we cannot rule out an eastern Gulf of Mexico track. Hopefully we'll be able to in a couple of days. All the models keep it as a Category 5 here, just about. There's the GFS ensembles, the microwave imagery. You can see how the storm structure has really improved. You can see the orange and the yellow-red bandings becoming more prominent. And again, you just don't see this. You see this in the Western Pacific. typhoons, but look at it's getting even darker, unfortunately. You don't see this kind of hurricane very often here in the Atlantic Basin. All right, last few images, and we're going to let you go here. A high chance of tropical storm force winds. Right now in southern Florida, I think chances are about 50 to 70% and increasing. Right now we have about 20% chance of hurricane force winds in Florida Keys and southern Florida. Most likely time of wind's arrival, so you can see the time frame here. You can find your region. Any impacts to Florida or the Florida Keys wouldn't begin until Saturday morning and afternoon. And here's a look at the radar. Been so busy working the storm, I haven't even looked, but I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. It looks like we're about to get clocked with some thunderstorms. So, and of course, rainfall showing a bullseye of 14 inches offshore here. So, Irma's a very serious storm. We want you to take it seriously. If you want to get the Hurricane Tracker app, you can check it out at www.hurrtracker.com. But otherwise, thank you so much for tuning in, and we hope everybody has a great evening.